Welcome to the latest webinar from the Bonner Institute for Purposeful Leadership. I'm John Barker, and with me is James Bonner, the founder and president of the Bonner Institute for Purposeful Leadership. We're delighted today to share with you some thoughts about agentic AI and AI agents, what the board and C-suite needs to know. I now will go ahead and open our presentation, and we'll get started. As you know, our topic is Agentic AI, what boards and C-suites need to know now. I'm John Barker. I'm an attorney. We're not giving legal advice today. I'm VP of AI at the Bonner Institute. Agentic AI and AI agents are everywhere in the news. I would like to recommend, if you're a board member or a corporate officer and your business or organization is looking at agentic AI, this Harvard Business Review article is worth looking at. But there are many others, and this is just to give you an idea. You'll notice that we have articles from just one day ago, a few hours ago, and agentic AI and AI agents are the topics of interest in the mainstream media. So even if AI agents and agentic AI are mysteries to you at this moment, you can go into a lot of mainstream media sources and start understanding about the impact and the investment patterns of agentic AI and AI agents. So I have an agenda today, and it looks like a very lengthy agenda, but I promise this will not be a long webinar, and it's specifically designed for that. But we're going to review what are the responsibilities of a board, want to introduce our programs for responsible AI for boards in the C-suite, which touch upon AI agents and agentic AI, the need for responsible AI, the broader issue of AI and human capital management. The Bonner Institute hosted a useful background webinar on AI and human capital management. We'll then look into the definition of agentic AI and the relationship between agentic AI and generative AI. It is easy to confuse them, but they do have a very interesting relationship. We'll talk about examples of real-world agentic AI applications, both those that exist today and those that are aspirational but will likely happen. We'll talk about the relationship of agentic AI to AI agents. They are intertwined and interrelated, but they are distinct. We'll go into some real-world examples of AI agents, including names of businesses that claim to build AI agents or provide tools for you to build your own AI agents. And we'll discuss the dynamics of employees and AI agents that come within the ambit of boards of directors and the corporate officers. So let's first start with board responsibilities. At an extremely high level, board members are subject to fiduciary duties, the duty to monitor and the duty of oversight. And they have the responsibility to oversee compliance with laws, regulations, ethics, as well as establish the corporate mission and values. The board is responsible to ensure a healthy employee culture for long-term sustainable growth. And boards must treat AI in general and associated cybersecurity risks as mission critical, and boards absolutely have a responsibility to oversee responsible AI governance. AI, and especially agentic AI and AI agents, promise to completely transform, perhaps disrupt, your enterprise. So boards and corporate officers need to become familiar with these issues. I'd like to just note that the Bonner Institute is the Bonner Institute for Purposeful Leadership. We have a very specific definition of purposeful leadership, but I'd like to focus today on the 6 attributes of a purposeful leader. These 6 attributes, when board members and corporate officers work to strengthen these attributes within themselves, will enable them to become better leaders for AI agents and agentic AI. Number 1, Purposeful leaders are conscious and authentic. They have high emotional intelligence. They're self-aware. They have self-knowledge, and they're humble. Number two, they have adaptable and flexible mindsets. This is particularly important given the speed with which AI is changing. They have a willingness to lead from a place of values, integrity, ethics, and mindfulness. The Bonner Institute stands for the proposition that organizations that integrate responsible AI principles with purposeful leadership will be better positioned for long-term sustainable growth. This intense, chaotic world can leverage a fourth attribute of a purposeful leadership: judgment, control, and clarity. Board members need attribute number five, the ability to sustain a vision for the company aligned with all stakeholder values, including society and the environment. And probably most importantly, number six, they should think long-term versus short-term. There will be many temptations and opportunities for boards to be swayed with the notion of lowering costs of having full-time employees and replacing them with AI agents or agentic AI. And that is definitely a mistaken vision. So let's just go at a very high level today into agentic AI. I'd like to note that the Bonner Institute has a program on responsible AI for boards in the C-suite. We have both an in-person program and a digital modular program. I'd just like to note that our digital modular program consists of 4 modules: understanding fiduciary duties relevant to artificial intelligence risks, artificial intelligence opportunities, and the board imperative of responsible AI and purposeful leadership. I'd like to note that in our in-person program, we have the ability to look at your specific business, your specific role within it, and your specific use cases, including legal and regulatory requirements, your competitive landscape, and we can help you institute responsible AI governance in the context of AI agents and agentic AI. So please contact us if this is of interest. I'd like to address the broader issue of human capital management at an extremely high level, AI, and I'm referring to all versions of AI, uh, old-fashioned deterministic AI, generative AI, AI agents, and agentic AI. AI can increase productivity, but the board and corporate officers must exercise oversight on what is the effect of integrating AI on employee morale and culture. AI can be viewed both by management and employees as a complete replacement of employees, or a manager of employees, or simply an assistant to employees. Each of these 3 situations presents different cultural issues. And AI impacts not only individual employees, but teams, team dynamics. By the way, even boards of directors and corporate officers will be impacted themselves in their own roles by AI agents and agentic AI. There will be AI agents performing tasks on behalf of the board and on behalf of corporate officers. So the team dynamic issue, employee morale and culture, will impact every level of the organization. It's also important to remember that AI changes over time. Large language models are ingesting new data, and human employees will need continuous retraining. And that need for understanding AI changes over time will greatly affect your decisions in reduction in force and decisions of new humans to hire to oversee AI. Human employees require background screening. Perhaps we don't have a true analog for background screening in the context of AI agents and agentic AI, but there will need to be some sort of vetting for fitness of purpose and assessing the risk of using specific AI agents and agentic AI in general. And that invokes regulatory compliance issues, and this comes within the scope of board responsibility. I'd like to note there's a very useful background webinar given by the Bonner Institute on September 2024. It addressed the broader issue of AI in human capital management, what boards and C-suites need to know. It focused on what CFOs, boards, and C-suites must grasp in terms of the interplay between AI and human capital to ensure successful AI implementation. In fact, our digital modular program, Responsible AI for Boards in the C-suite, recommends viewing this webinar as background content, and we're recommending it to you today. You can always go to the Bonner Institute website, click on webinars, and find the link. Let's dive into Agentic AI. I'd like to go into the definition of AI, and forgive me, but I'm going to read it. It's important information. Agentic AI is a type of artificial intelligence that performs tasks and actually makes decisions autonomously with minimal human intervention. That raises a lot of benefits and raises a lot of risks. Agentic AI leverages technologies such as natural language processing, machine learning, and large language models. And large language models is implying generative AI, or Gen AI for short. The goal of agentic AI is to achieve specific goals, and those goals are established by humans and perhaps by AI. And agentic AI aims to complete activities on behalf of users. Agentic AI is designed to act and execute tasks based on predefined objectives or learned patterns. And essentially, agentic AI serves as an autonomous agent. Could be your personal agent, your team's agent, your board of directors as a collective agent, your corporate officer's agent in their individual roles or collectively. Agentic AI is capable of handling very complex tasks and even making decisions in dynamic environments. Now, there is a relationship between agentic AI and generative AI. You probably know about OpenAI's ChatGPT. That's a very popular version of generative AI. Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini. There actually are many more. First, I'd like to note it is possible to have agentic AI operating independently of generative AI, but you're more likely to see an integration. There's much more focus on agentic AI leveraging generative AI as a foundation or an input. This integration creates more sophisticated and capable AI systems. This means for you as a board member or corporate officer that if you're going to deploy agentic AI and AI agents, you need an understanding of generative AI. AI, agentic AI, and generative AI play complementary roles. An example in this bullet point, a generative AI can create detailed financial reports or visual content, which an agentic AI can then use to make informed decisions. Think about an autonomous vehicle with the visual capabilities to recognize lines in road and road signs to make informed decisions about how to steer the vehicle. Indeed, an autonomous vehicle is an excellent example of agentic AI in operation. It's also important to note, and we alluded to this earlier, agentic AI and generative AI leverage similar underlying technologies, such as machine learning and natural language processing, but the applications differ. Remember that agentic AI is designed to act and execute tasks based on predefined objectives or learned patterns. Here's a nice set of bullet points that summarize that relationship. On the left-hand side, we see the key features of generative artificial intelligence, the creation of content, the analysis of data, constantly adapting to new novel situations through training and personalization. And the key features of agentic AI AI on the right are making decisions, and you as an organization and a board will need to set guardrails about what decisions can be made completely autonomously or through the assistance with a human being or under human supervision that's infrequent or irregular. Agentic AI can solve problems. Agentic AI is characterized by autonomy, interactivity, and it is able to make plans depending on how you design the agents. Here are some real world applications of agentic AI. One of these, by the way, in my opinion, remains aspirational, but otherwise, everything you see here already exists. In healthcare, AI agents can manage patient data, schedule appointments, and monitor patient conditions in real time. For example, to predict which patients might develop sepsis. There's research going on to leverage agentic AI in surgical robots. Agentic AI, in theory, would increase their autonomy to enable them to perform complex procedures with precision with less human oversight or involvement. Transportation, we already have self-driving vehicles and drones that can navigate traffic, optimize delivery routes, and enhance logistics efficiency. In agriculture, we have drones and other autonomous machines that monitor crop health, manage irrigation, and optimize soil conditions. Smart grids and energy can be powered by agentic AI to ensure efficient energy distribution and usage, adapting to real-time demand and supply. Customer service. This is where we see the greatest usage of agentic AI, AI-driven chatbots. And I would like to note that chatbots by themselves are not necessarily agentic AI. There are some chatbots that you would characterize more as an instrument of generative AI, but more sophisticated goal-driven chatbots go into the level of agentic AI. We have virtual agents that are now able to handle customer inquiries and provide personalized recommendations and resolve issues autonomously. In finance, we're working on AI agents that can manage investment portfolios and perform real-time trading, as well as detect fraudulent activities. In retail and commerce, AI agents can assist with inventory management, personalized shopping experiences, and of course, handle customer support. In manufacturing, AI models can engage in quality control by detecting defects and inefficiencies in production lines, and autonomous robots can perform assembly tasks or logistics. Let's think a bit about agentic AI and its relationship for AI agents. IBM, which is one of my favorite sources of objective information about artificial intelligence, has noted that agentic AI is a foundation for AI agents. AI agents are the building blocks within the framework of agentic AI. I'd like to recommend that you study the websites of several agentic AI vendors to learn more of very specific examples and use cases of agentic AI and AI agents. Our purpose today is not to endorse a specific vendor, although I will tell you I personally and professionally am a customer of Copilot and Google Gemini, and I do make use of some AI agents. But these are the 36 top agentic AI vendors as rated by a market research vendor, and you can go to their website and you can get some ideas. And of course, you can always use public search engines such as Google and Bing. Here are just a few examples of AI agents that exist and which you can use as a template for your business. Salesforce has a product called Agentforce. And you can take Agentforce and it has a customer service agent, and you can tailor it for your specific environment. We also have the example from Salesforce of an AI agent playing the role of a sales development representative. a sales coach to help salespeople become better salespersons, meet their quotas, and assess return on investment by analyzing win-loss rates of deals, and can even provide coaching when needed in a particular context. Personal shoppers, also developed by Salesforce that you can license and tailor for your particular user base. Marketing campaigns, and these marketing campaigns can generate marketing briefs and target specific audience segments and change rapidly based on context. Agent Force has AI agents for several teams and several customer segments: healthcare, banking, retail, and operations, customer experience, analytics, IT, and finance. Let's talk a bit about what boards and C-suites should consider regarding the dynamics of employees and AI agents. You can imagine that the introduction of AI agents will dramatically change employee self-perception, employee interaction with other employees, and dynamics in teams. First of all, let's discuss the issue of shadow AI. AI agents and agentic AI do present this risk. Shadow AI refers to the unsanctioned use of artificial intelligence or other applications within an organization that leverage AI without the formal approval or oversight of the IT department. Now, why might an employee, without the sanction of IT, use an AI agent? Well, if you put pressure on your workforce to increase productivity and the employees have limited time or ability, they're going to be motivated to use AI agents. Those might be free agents created by malicious actors that want to engage in corporate espionage or initiate a cyber attack. Or it might be an employee that purchases an AI agent on their personal devices at home, and or maybe even a personal device at work. But AI agents do enable employees and your suppliers and your contractors to increase their activities, productivity, and they will not be motivated to proactively discuss the fact that they are using that. So this can pose significant risks, including data breaches, compliance issues, and potential damage to the company's reputation. And in our digital modular program, we discuss the importance of boards and C-suites proactively engaging in responsible AI governance to proactively sanction responsible AI use to decrease or eliminate this risk. Other dynamics. What happens to your workforce when an AI agent completely replaces one or more employees? What message is sent to the other employees? How does it affect their motivation? Remember that AI agents are also likely to be training on data produced by employees, as well as data produced by employee activity. How does that impact morale? And if you get rid of employees to cut costs, how will the AI agents get trained in best practices? AI can manage employees. An AI agent might be given a management task or to monitor employee communications and give and warn board members and C-suites when there are compliance violations, or perhaps the inability of employees to meet a performance goal. How does that affect morale and your long-term success? It's also possible that an employee or one of your suppliers will leverage one of those vendors to create their own agents to perform work successfully, but not disclose it to you. There are a lot of intellectual property risks, particularly if the employee shares software code or other trade secrets with the AI agents. What happens if your contractors and suppliers do not disclose their use of AI agents? You'll need to get your legal counsel involved in your statements of work, SOWs, your contracts, etc., because that can expose you to liability. Boards and C-suites have a lot of issues to consider. And how will you hire employees to interact with AI agents in the future? Board issues include employee retention, employee retraining, and reductions in force, legal and regulatory compliance, and intellectual property. Will you be creating AI agents that you want to patent, copyright, or trademark, or protect through the doctrine of trade secrets? We recommend that boards follow governance principles of responsible AI and trustworthy AI. Again, our digital modular program and our personal program can guide you through that process. Boards are responsible for establishing a security-first culture, an ethical culture, establishing the corporate mission and the values and the strategy, and ensuring that AI agents and agentic AI are aligned with the bigger corporate mission and values. I'd like to thank you for participating in this brief presentation. And James, I know you'll have a lot of thoughts about the topics that we have raised, and I'm eager to hear your thoughts. And I'm going to stop sharing the screen so we see our faces instead of a PowerPoint.
Thank you very much, John. As always, I get so very much out of these webinars, and I learn so very much. And you're right; they did tweak some or elicit, let me phrase it that way, some questions for me. Um, I really liked what you were talking about, the relationship between agentic AI and and the human capital. I think you did
Mm-hmm.
a very good job about highlighting the various aspects of that. I have
Mm-hmm.
one, which I wonder how companies address it if they're aware of it, and I would think they are. But that's a whole question of biases.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh,
that
yes.
there's the human bias, I would think,
Yes.
that agentic AI or indeed any form of AI, if it's Gen AI, would inherently have um, that has been passed through by the um, programmer. And I'm wondering if in the case of agentic AI, it isn't the same issue times a multiple of X, so much more. Does
Yes.
this make sense, or is it my limitations that?
Oh, it absolutely is. It actually has several different levels. So first of all, bias is one of the most challenging issues of generative AI, and therefore will become a challenging issue in agentic AI and AI agents.
Mhm,
So large language models are trained on data, the public
mhm,
internet, for example. Bias, by the way, is often culture specific. What is considered harmful bias in one culture might be considered a beneficial bias in another culture. That is something we need to remember. So it is culture specific. But a large language model that would be the foundation for agentic AI will inherit biases of the public training data, and it can also be trained on your organization's activities, written and verbal content, your voicemails, your conversations, your Zoom meetings, if they're recorded, your webinars, and the decisions that you make. Even your budget contains bias. And if you do not have a strong ethical culture aligned with mission and values, in other words, not your employee behaviors, communications, and decisions are not aligned with your explicit culture as defined in your compliance policies, your corporate charter, your mission and values statement. Your LLMs are going to inherit those negative biases and blind spots, and then your agents will as well. And so good culture will be reinforced and bad culture will be reinforced. And that's why there will always need to be human oversight. In our digital modular program for boards and C-suites, responsible AI, we discussed the need for ongoing monitoring for bias. There's a very important governance function so that the work to detect bias in the training data and the need to monitor for bias in the outputs. I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. I have a follow-up, if I may. So,
Mm-hmm.
so the follow-up is the following. Um, we talk about the need for human oversight. And
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, we're seeing increasingly the preponderance of AI in increasingly what we would deem to be leadership or even management functions.
Mm-hmm.
And there's talk of having AI of some form, not only as an assistant, but almost as a participant at the board level.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm wondering is that if we do believe in the necessity of having human oversight, how do we manage the advent of the management, I'll call it agentic AI role or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it will be then, with the necessity, or if it is a necessity, but I would tend to believe it is, of having human oversight.
Well, I would like to note, first of all, a premise of what I'm going to say
Okay.
is that boards are already using AI and might not be knowing it. The
Hmm.
work product that they are reading and processing, the financial statements that they are looking at, the legal analysis and reasoning they are relying on are probably partially created through AI somewhere in the value chain. So I'd like to note that first. So the first thing that boards and corporate officers need is AI literacy, training and knowledge and awareness, the ability to know that AI is present even when they can't see it. But there actually are signs when you look at text, for example, or even video. There are clues that you can look for when AI has actually been used to create that content. Uh, I also would like to note that the over-reliance on AI has already been shown by scientific studies to reduce critical thinking skills in people. So, boards and C-suites that oversee organizations that require critical thinking are going to have to manage in such a way that AI is not overused, that there's not over reliance on AI. So I think the most important thing is awareness.
Hmm.
And in our digital modular program, we go into what is needed to set up a responsible AI governance program. We rely heavily on the artificial intelligence risk management framework from the U.S. National Institute for Standards and Technology,
Hmm.
but we also provide a reference to the European Union AI Act. And so I recommend AI literacy. And then once you have AI literacy, you will inherently know, boards will inherently know that they need someone in the organization who has overall responsibility for AI governance. And there needs to be a board committee that has oversight. Well, the board as a whole will need oversight over AI. Uh, it's likely that that oversight will be placed in the audit committee or a compliance committee, but I think it should be actually broader.
John, you mentioned earlier that they're different. A lot will depend on cultures and culture, corporate
Yeah.
culture. And the corporate cultures will depend on the industry perhaps they're in, the type of company that it is, and also on greater culture, meaning
Yeah.
on a North American type culture, an Asian type culture, and so forth. So, and I also heard you say that at least in some of the programs you were talking about, I think the longer ones or the workshops, you were saying that you can go into a company, speak with them, and then determine or identify some user cases that are specific to the company and their industry and integrate that into the program. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So let's say that let's take the instance of cybersecurity.
Yeah, let's.
Um, Information security in general, AI, uh, generate all forms of AI will be essential for cybersecurity.
Mhm.
Detecting anomalous activity in the network, analyzing the logs of network activity, analyzing the data packets that flow through the network. There's so much activity in the network, it's not possible for human beings to keep up. You're going to need AI just in order to manage cybersecurity and information security. That's going to be a use case for everyone. However, if you're a medical device manufacturer or you're a hospital, you're going to be, or you're in financial services, you have a higher standard of care as a board member to exercise oversight because you're in a heavily regulated industry. Or suppose you are a defense contractor to a government. You produce weapons for a government, for example. You're going to have heightened security measures. So even cybersecurity will have a context in terms of the industry segment. And depending on what if you're 100% cloud-based or you're in a hybrid cloud environment, those are going to be different contexts for how AI is deployed. Where you do business is going to have an impact. For example, if you do business exclusively in the United States, maybe exclusively in one or two states, your regulatory requirements are going to be different than if you do business in a country in the European Union or
Mhm.
Singapore or Australia. So a lot of factors will come into play. Um, but so you need to do a legal and regulatory analysis. You would need to look at your architecture, how it's set up, and it's actually a very onerous task in terms of board governance.
So, if I'm hearing you correctly, you would be, before starting an engagement with them, with a company X, you would sit down with the management team or whomever, but presumably the management team, and then to try and identify what specific elements of generative AI or AI would impact their industry specifically. Is that
Definitely.
fair?
Oh, definitely. So you would look at AI well, first of all, are we looking at a vertical function or a horizontal function? So for
Right.
example, if they're deploying AI for customer support, customer service, sales, and marketing, those are more routine, lower risk use cases. Although, for example, in healthcare advertising and healthcare
Mhm.
marketing, you have some marketing pharmaceuticals, you have a lot of regulations, so there could be some higher risk in those contexts. But as a general rule, just customer service chatbots are lower risk in all jurisdictions, but there is some risk. Um, so that's what I would call a horizontal function, common to all businesses. But the
Mhm.
vertical functions I'm talking about, well, I'm a medical device manufacturer. Well, that's
Mhm.
going to be very, very different from the situation where I'm a consulting firm and I produce knowledge.
Mhm.
So yes, you would want to look at whether it's a vertical or horizontal function. If it's a vertical function, then you would want to look at their peers.
Mhm.
What are their competitors and peer companies doing? What are entities in their supply chains doing? What are their customers doing? Because their customers might be leveraging AI to disrupt and replace their suppliers. You would need to look at the government regulations. That's another context. I don't know if you're familiar. There's a Porter Five Forces analysis. I think it's from Harvard Business School. That's a nice framework for analyzing all the forces and stakeholders you might want to consider when you're creating a new product, but you could apply a similar framework. There are a lot of good checklists that you can consider. Um, and so you want to look at the legal, regulatory environment, your business environment, your business model, your corporate mission and values. So you'd be looking at the macro and micro levels simultaneously to understand the use cases.
And then, am I correct in inferring from what you're saying that once that work is done, the knowledge that has been obtained would then inform the program that would be delivered to that company?
Definitely, definitely. And then you'd want to look at what kind of AI do I need? For example,
Yes, cool.
um, you might want to use old-fashioned deterministic AI, machine learning and natural language processing, and not use generative AI. Generative AI is more expensive and it has more risk. So in our modular program, and I think you've seen it, you have to do a risk benefit analysis. So, deterministic AI has been used at least since the 1970s very successfully without great controversy, with great accuracy, great predictability and outcomes, and thus lower risk but high benefit. Generative AI has um, less predictability of outcome, therefore higher risk. But
Mhm.
if the use case is finely tuned, the benefit can be very high. But
Right.
one challenge we do have in generative AI and AI agents and agentic AI will inherit this is the high energy costs for generative AI. And the vendors will have to pass along those costs. And then you're going to also have the risk of vendor lock-in. So you really, if you are wanting to use AI-enabled automation for your mission critical processes or products or services, you're going to have to look very, very carefully at the risks and how you set up your architecture. It's a very complex set of
It
issues.
is. It is. Um, I was wondering if anybody else might have a question they have. Steve, I see that you're there in our audience. I don't know if you would have a question you'd like to ask. If not, that's all right. It's just I was wondering if you were. So, John, I must admit, I'm taken with this subject just because of the importance of it. It
Mhm,
is when I speak about AI and the speed of which at which it's really being integrated everywhere. I use the term, at least for me, that it's mutating, very much like a virus, not in the
mhm,
negative sense
mhm,
necessarily of a
mhm,
virus, but it
mhm,
really is going at
mhm,
that kind of warp
mhm,
speed.
mhm.
And just to try and get our head about how we as humans uh, can can work alongside and in an ideal world is have some oversight over it, I find really quite daunting.
Well, the first thing that everyone must do is take the initiative to get AI literacy. And no
Yeah.
matter what your level of knowledge is, just get started. There are free resources, there are low cost paid resources, and there are expensive resources. I've leveraged all of those in my personal knowledge journey with AI. I've used training courses from Microsoft, Google, Alphabet, and Google, Coursera, IBM. YouTube even has, there are professors and scientists who discuss AI. Your public library has free resources that are very high value that you have access to via your tax dollars. So if you want to learn about AI, you can. And there are different aspects of knowledge of AI. So there's a management perspective, there's a an academic perspective, a legal and regulatory perspective, and then there's just the deep, deep knowledge of the science and the technology of AI. You can get a PhD in AI, you can get a master's degree in AI, and there are different flavors of AI. But start somewhere so that you can get a vocabulary about it. In our digital modular program, we refer to one of the ISO standards. I hope I can remember the standard. Just one moment. Let me just um, um, uh, get that standard. I should have opened this document earlier. Let me just see if I can find it. There's an ISO standard that is actually free of charge. Most ISO standards you have to purchase.
Yes.
But this ISO standard is available free of charge. I think it is ISO 23894. It is let me just find it. It is a taxonomy. No, 23894 is a risk management framework. You have to pay for that. I'll have to look it up. There is an ISO standard that is a glossary of AI terms. And if I were an enterprise adopting AI, I would download that standard and I would train my workforce and my fellow board members on that and my corporate officers. You need a common vocabulary. I'd also like to note that even different laws and regulations define AI differently. You might live in a jurisdiction in which your software application is not considered AI, but if you were to deploy it in another, it would be considered AI and
Mhm.
regulated. So
Mhm.
it's the even just the definitions are extremely important.
Mhm. You know, and I listen to you, and I listen to all the programs that are out there, ranging from free to expensive, really, and quite expensive. I marvel at how few or the inroads that have been made in, let's say, in business, the upper echelons of business into AI awareness. You gave a master class that I attended, and where you recounted a story that you fabricated, and you told everybody it was
Yeah,
fabricated, and
yeah,
you had embedded in there, if I'm not mistaken, about 50 risks of AI, deep risk for an organization that typically a board would have to be aware of. Some of them were very, very serious and existential for the company, including the loss of their intellectual property. And at the end, I remember you asked the audience, and the audience was of board members, executives, and entrepreneurs, uh, just to highlight some of the risks that they had seen or heard from what you said. And what it came up with is that 86% of the risks that you had embedded in that had not been identified.
yeah, yeah,
And this and that, you know, that these are from board members, C-suites, entrepreneurs, and so
yeah.
on. That struck me greatly. Now that
Yeah.
was that was perhaps a number of months ago, so things might have
Yes.
changed, but I wouldn't think that they have changed completely or that dramatically at that level in the
Yes.
months.
Yes.
Am I wrong?
No, I think you're correct. Absolutely. Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
that I find very concerning,
Yeah.
and I'm not
Yeah.
sure how to translate or how to package the information that you've been sharing in a manner that would reach this group.
Yeah. Yeah. It would, we one could always go through the that same use case and it's quite challenging. You have to pay a lot of attention, but it certainly is a possibility. Definitely.
Mhm. Anyways, I I was quite taken with that, and obviously it's marked my thinking a great deal since.
Yes, 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 absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
John, I think I've come to the end of my questions. I don't know if you have something you can add or would like to add.
Well, my overall recommendation to board members and corporate officers is to get as much knowledge as you can about AI and become aware of what your responsibilities are as a board member or a corporate officer, and understand what impact you can have in the organization. Once you become aware of your responsibilities and of AI, good actions can flow from that. And that
Mhm.
my recommendation overall is AI literacy. That's the imperative.
Well, John, as always, I learned a great deal from all of your webinars and all of your talks and all of your master classes. So thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you very much, James. And at this point, I will stop our recording.